Hi, everybody. Ron Wildman in here on your Middle Georgia Spotlight. This being Black History Month, we have a special guest who's making history right now, Stanley Stewart, our District 3 BIB Commissioner.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ron. I appreciate you being here with you today. Thank you for everything you do in the community, and just honored to be here with you and serve the people of District 3.
Well, how are you making history?
Well, a lot of people tell me, of course, I'm the first black man to serve in the role as District 3 Commissioner in that role. Before me was two black ladies, Mr. Loris Brooks and Miss Elaine Lucas, and before them was Mr. Pittman.
I remember Mr. Pittman.
Yeah, so I'm the first black man to hold that role, but even above that, my goal is to make sure that all of our citizens, black, white, red, yellow, and brown, are best served by my abilities and the things that I do every day.
Basically colorblind.
I have to be. That's the way I grew up. It's the family I grew up in, my family background, and we're all in this together. The best thing we need to realize is that together we got to go forward, and like anything else, divided we don't stand.
You are a native of Macon?
I wasn't born here. I was raised here in Macon. I was born in Washington, D.C., 1971.
Well, how did that happen?
Well, my mom went to Spelman. My dad had been in the Air Force, wanted to go back and get his degree, and he went back to Howard and got his degree, and I was born September 6, 1971. My parents moved back down here the following year in 1972, and I was raised here in East Macon. Graduated from Northeast High School, went on to Morehouse College, and came back here. I'll be honest with you, I really thought, back during that time, I was telling somebody the other day, I thought I would probably end up in Atlanta or somewhere else, but took care of family. My great aunt, Rosetta Miles, who was the first black supervisor of social workers, she graduated at Spelman in 1929. She had had a stroke. My mom was taking care of her, so I wanted to make sure I helped my mom out in that regard. And in the process, you end up taking care of other family members, my dad until he passed in 2005, and most recently taking care of my mom after a stroke until she passed in 2021.
You were a caregiver to her for several years, weren't you?
I was for 11 years, and I left my job at the school system at Northeast High School to take care of my mom, and luckily I had my own business, Stewart Advertising, to fall back on, and so while working and taking care of her, making things ends meet, it was hard. It was very difficult. She worried about it because I'm the only child. She worried about it. I used to tell her every day, Mom, I've got this. You just do what you can do, and I'll take up the slack for the rest.
There are a lot of caregivers in the city that we never hear about.
That's true, and it makes me relate to those individuals. For example, if our car would go down during that time, if I had to catch the city bus, for example, early in the morning, you would see ladies with maybe a Wendy's outfit on, and hear them talking. Well, at 12 or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they're going to switch and go over to Dairy Queen to work. So you get a better feel for the citizens that I'm now serving, but those citizens who are my fellow citizens and fellow East Maconites all the time.
Well, since you're on the commission, you have some attachment to the transit system, yes, even though they have their own board and yes, everything. How can that be improved, or how would you want to improve the transit system here?
Mr. Robin, I really would like to see, and I've been on various transit systems around the world, but we've got to make some improvements to Macon, and I think the best thing would be like A to B routes. For example, if you were coming from my house out in the Sherland area, out near Bowden Golf Course, and at times I had to do this, and I had to get to Walmart. At times it could be quicker for me to almost walk to Walmart than to catch the two buses that it would take.
That's a long way.
That's a long way, yeah. and so you had to catch the East Macon bus, and you had to ride through Kings Park, right through Davis Homes, back through downtown, transfer to another bus, the North Highland bus at the time, and then make your way through Fort Hill, through North Highland, and make your way finally to Walmart. So, we've got to find quicker routes, A to B routes, so to speak. I think that's one thing. Another thing is making sure that our paratransit routes are better. That's a gentleman by the name of Wade Horton who talks to me about this all the time in East Macon. The need to make sure that you have better routes. You have Sunday routes. You have a lot of people who want to go to church on Sundays. So we got to do a better job, and I'll be talking to Mr. Craig Ross in the coming weeks about that.
And can you have any influence on that? Not just you as a member, but the commission itself and the mayor.
Yeah. I think all those partners together, working together, can bring about a better solution. But I think the best solution, and I always say this, is being a citizen. There's no greater role, in my opinion, than that of being a citizen. And so that's why you hear me always say, have citizens come to these meetings, commission meetings, planning and zoning meetings, Board of Education meetings, whatever it may be, Macon Water Authority, Transit Authority. come to those meetings, voice your opinion, and be part of the solution.
That's what I was going to ask you also. You just ran and won your election handily.
Yes, sir.
And you had really stiff opposition. And what was your percentage?
62%.
Well, that's
62%.
This day and age, that's a healthy percentage.
It was.
Well, anyway, how does a person like you, a citizen, get involved in politics? I know you mentioned attending meetings and such, but how else can they go about this?
I think the biggest thing is to make sure you realize that you are a part of it. A lot of times citizens, I think, feel as if they're on the outside looking in. But by getting a part of your neighborhood association, you can start there, to be honest with you, to answer your question directly. You can start with your neighborhood associations if you have those. And if not, come to those meetings that are public meetings. All the meetings are announced. And, a lot of times the powers that be, I think, don't think that people, the regular citizens, are going to show up at these meetings and they just necessarily go through the process of, the meetings. But come to those meetings, voice your opinion, and above anything else, hold your elected officials, myself included, responsible and accountable for our actions and what we do.
And it's possible to end up there.
It is, yeah, it really is. And I tell people all the time, I say it's just an extension. I always say lead with love. And that's how my mom raised me, make sure that you treat people as you want to be treated, the golden rule. Luke 12:48, that was a family philosophy, to whom much is given, much is required. Those are things that were ingrained in me growing up. And so I try to live those out every day of my life.
Now, being on the commission, is it like anything you thought it would be when you were outside looking in?
Yes and no. Yes, from the standpoint of making your ideas forward and pushing things that you want to push. The part that is always somewhat daunting, if you will, is the political part of it. You have to deal with politics, and I'm not really. I don't like politics. It's strange to say that, even though I'm an elected official, I don't like politics, but I like public service. And so when those moments of politics arise, I have to make sure that I counter that with my public service background and my public service heart.
Politics, that's getting votes.
It is getting votes, and it's also, people on the other side, trying to maneuver various things, and I don't like that. I like to make sure that that you are forwarding your thoughts, forwarding your ideas, and making sure the citizens come to you with certain concerns, and you try to answer those concerns in a timely manner. The political part of it that goes on sometimes behind the scenes, you can have it.
Well, the nuts and bolts, you get up there, and the first thing you do, you have to go up to Athens to the University of Georgia. What was that like up there, and how long was that?
That was about, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 days. And we've had classes after that as well. We had one here at Central Georgia Tech just about 2 weeks ago. We'll be going to Atlanta towards the end of this month. But the ACCG, which represents all the commissioners, newly elected commissioners around the state, it was a great meeting. I love policy meetings like that. I love to see how we can better bring those tools back to our district and better serve the people of those various districts.
What were they telling you? Or they teach you? Is it like a school or what?
It is, yeah. You have to attend classes. You have a chance to network with other commissioners from around the state. You talk about various things that that you deal with on a daily basis. But it's a way, in my opinion, first of all, to kind of get a better understanding of how the whole process works. It's a process to everything. Everything is a process, and they better lay out that process for you. So when you're governing on your day-to-day basis, you're not really shocked by some of the things you come up with.
Now, after you get on council, they have committees?
Well, under the current setup, it's a committee of the whole. Past administrations have had committees. The current mayor deals with the committee of the whole. So,
there are divisions.
Yeah. So we basically, the agenda is basically set by the mayor. So under the strong mayor style of government. So, but you still find ways to fit your voice in. You still find ways to make sure your constituents are heard, which is why it's very important. Why I keep harping on the fact that we got to make sure citizens come to these meetings, because even though things may be structured in a certain manner, there's still no structure greater than the body of the citizens.
Now, what are your interests up there? How it used to be, I'm going back to the old city council,
Yes.
that you want to be on the fire department committee or the police committee or this committee or that. So how do you narrow in on what you're interested in?
Well, I think in my case, personally, what I do is I try to, I don't let anybody else control my narrative. And if there are certain things that I want to see put forth, I voice that opinion. For example, early on, one of my first meetings was there was some issue about the Confederacy, and I made sure that I said that there's no way in the world Macon, Georgia should be known for bringing about a Confederate monument in the year 2024, halfway through the 21st century, and we're talking about something that happened in the 19th century. So things like that, that's my personality, though. Some people will kind of sit back and kind of go with the flow, but I'm one who makes sure that I'm driven by those people who put me there, and that was one case in particular.
Now, coming up, we have one of those local option sales tax things.
Yes.
Explain that one to me.
SPLOST vote takes place on March 18th. Early voting starts, I want to say February the 24th. Don't hold me to that date, but early voting starts on that very soon. There are a lot of initiatives put forth in the SPLOST. The mayor has, lined a few things that he wants to see done as far as roads. That's the top of his list, I think, and some other facilities as well. But there again, citizens have to take a look at that and see if that's something they want to do. I personally, anytime that you have a chance to get $450 million into your coffers as a city, is something that I would definitely be behind. But there again, you still want to make sure that what measures are going forward based on what the mayor has put in there are measures that are going to benefit everybody in the city.
Did the commission have to vote to move forward on it?
Yes, sir, but the final vote, that's just to move it forward, but the final vote, of course, of whether or not it passes for our community is on the people. And that comes about on March 18th and early voting, as I say, February 24th. But still, talk to me, talk to the mayor in particular, talk to your other commissioners to find out exactly what's in there, to get a better understanding of what's in there, because sometimes it can be kind of vague. You want to get a better understanding as to what you're voting on.
Well, usually when they put together a plan for one of those local options, they try to get something for this neighborhood, that neighborhood, this, that.
Yeah.
Well, I heard they want to. The mayor, I think, mentioned, I don't know if anybody else is behind this, wants to replace the Macon Coliseum.
Yeah, that's
that part of the package.
Well, that's something that he has kind of kicked around the last few days. I heard it like you did on the news. There are two measures that he mentioned on the news last night that would benefit East Macon, to be honest with you. That being the Coliseum and also being the $350 million East Bank project and then the project over at Mill Hill as well, Bicentennial Park. All those are projects that would benefit East Macon. Now, whether or not all that would fit into the SPLOST, we have to look at it and see. I don't know the ins and outs of that. But as far as the new Coliseum, I know where we need one. I mean, I was at the Coliseum the other day for a hockey game. I think you and I talked about that. But at the same time, coming on the heels of the amphitheater, I don't know how we could really adequately look at that as a community right now. There are other things that definitely would come into play, I think, before a new Coliseum. And I say that as an East Macon resident.
To be fair to the mayor, now he did mention our roads and streets are going to get taken care of.
And I'm behind him 100% on that, making sure that the various roads, because we've got some bad roads here in Macon, the roads that we can control. Some roads, of course, are GDOT, but the roads that we can control, there's a street scan car going around now, kind of taking a inventory of the various streets. So yeah, I'm behind him on that. And I would have to look at that Coliseum plan to find out, how much it would cost, to find out if it's feasible, find out if it's something that the citizens of not just East Macon, because yes, it would benefit based on the fact that it's there in East Macon, but from a dollar aspect, all of Macon has to pay for it, Yeah. So that's just something I would have to look at and see. But I am on board for this SPLOST because anytime you get $450 million coming into your community, it's a good thing. And you got to also realize this, Mr. Well, that the current mayor was blessed, if you will, to have all this federal money coming into Macon at the time that it did from President Biden. As it stands now, the administrations have changed in Washington, and so money's not going to flow like it flowed in the last 4 years coming out of Washington. So we have also got to look at that SPLOST as a way to maybe finance some things going forward.
Along with the roads, what other grassroots things do you want to happen over in your district and across the city?
Well, I think roads is the main thing. Infrastructure is another thing we got to look at. That can fall into public-private partnership because, quite honestly, I'm the person that believes the government can't solve all your needs. I really believe that. I think that you got to have private industry at the table. Government sometimes can spark that those government dollars can spark the interest and make sure that developers, private developers, are coming to an area. But public-private partnerships are things that we've got to look at, so we won't overdo our governmental budget.
Recently, as recent as New Year's Day, we knocked down the old Hilton or Ramada Inn or whatever era you remember the name is. You have any idea what's going to go in that area?
Well, the mayor has some plans with that, in terms of building another hotel, another convention center in that area that would be beneficial to that area, to the downtown area, and also the area across the river. The East Bank project that we're talking about would kind of go hand in hand with that. So I don't think, based on my knowledge, I don't think they've secured a developer for that site yet. But that is his plan, to make sure that we have another hotel go up in that area.
It's very unusual to have that big of an area that you can, a blank slate, basically.
It is, yeah, and that hotel, as you say, whatever area, whether it's the Hilton, the Ramada Inn, the Crown Plaza, it played a part in the memories of Macon and Central Georgia. I was last in there in 2005 when my cousin Little Richard came here. Mayor Ellis brought him here, and we were up at the penthouse in that place. I can't remember what it was called at the time, whether it was the Hilton or the Crown Plaza, whatever it was, but that was my last time in that building. So when you think about the people who stayed there, Michael Jackson and his brothers, Elvis, it has a storied history, but hopefully what we can do going forward is build some more memories on that location.
Now, out at the other end of town where the open air amphitheater is located, the Macon Mall, offices are being put in there.
Yes, sir.
Have you had anything to do with that?
Well, I was at Planning and Zoning yesterday. I took some two constituents from East Macon who had a property issue, and I was there yesterday. It's a beautiful facility, in terms of where the new Planning and Zoning office is. The people in there seem to like it, and they seem to be getting used to it. It's a little bit of adjustment not to see them downtown, adding to the downtown economy, but we're glad they're in that building and making great use of it, and hopefully going forward more things can be brought there. I know the mayor has also mentioned the possibility of a hotel going in that property to be in conjunction with the amphitheater. Whether or not you agree with the building of the amphitheater or not, which I didn't, I'll be honest with you, I don't mind going on record saying that, because I thought that money could have been spent elsewhere, but it's there now. And I'm the type of person, as a Maconite, and as a person who wants to see the success of the amphitheater and the success of the current administration until new administration comes in. You want to make sure the amphitheater is a success. And so we need to do everything we possibly can to make sure we attend concerts when they're there, make sure that concerts are coming there, and just make sure that we're there in support of it.
That building, the mall, appears to be very sound, and it was taken care of by the previous owner.
Yes, sir. Hull Properties, of course, was the previous owner that struck the deal with the city as it stands right now, and it's a solid building. I mean, it is a solid building. It's a building I think was built probably in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and so going forward, hopefully more more governmental offices. If this administration so chooses to put them there, hopefully that will take place.
They're up-to-date facilities there. The election board is there.
Election board, yes, that's another thing. Yeah, election board is there, and it's a great place for senior citizens who have mobility problems. They can go around the side there where Sears was and have a closer point to their election place.
Do you see more places going in there, offices going in there?
I think based on, as I say, based on the mindset of the current administration, I think you probably will see more going in there, and I would be surprised if they didn't.
The Black History Month. Let's get back to that a little bit. Have you been involved in any of the projects going on?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, today I was with Ms. Barbara Tolliver Rogers out of North Macon. She and her family, they have homes on 200 plus acres that was owned by A.D. Tolliver, who was had a dairy farm there back in the 1800s.
That's out there, Forest Hill area?
Forest Hill area and
Hall Road?
Hall Road, Riverside Drive, in that area.
At one time, that was way out there.
It was way out, it was in the country.
Yeah.
As she said that. She said it herself. And but her family, my good friend Aisha Ellen, who's executive director of Keep Making It Beautiful, she's part of that family as well, the Tolliver family. And so they've been North Macon residents, this is going into the 3rd century of them being North Macon residents and living on that property where Mr. A.D. Tolliver had his business. And we walked down to the cemetery where he's buried. So all that was done today. And there are other things that are going on. 2 or 3 days ago, I was at the Tubman. I made sure I chronicled Jefferson Long, who was the first black congressman from this area. And there are other things we have going on. There'll be a wreath laying, of course, on Friday for Rosa Parks at City Hall. The one thing we don't want to do, and the one thing I'm trying to do now more than anything else, because it seems to be, and there again, I hate to keep talking about Washington, but there seems to be an onslaught on history. And the history that we have is American history. Black, white, red, yellow, brown, it is American history. It made us who we are, almost 250 years of who we are as Americans. And so we have to honor that from all aspects, the good and the bad. And we have to, another thing, Fort Hawkins, you know, that's on my side of town. I talked about, you know, the need for those three elements from Fort Hawkins. At one time, there was a Wolf Fork plantation at Fort Hawkins. We need to make sure we chronicle that. Then, of course, there was the people who were in uniform. The westernmost part of the United States was the Ocmulgee River. Then the Native American aspect. So all three cultures can be brought together from a tourist aspect now and benefit Fort Hawkins, Fort Hill, and that entire area. But to answer your initial question, yes, we've got to make sure that history is done in a way where all people benefit from it.
Ever since I've been in Macon as a reporter, I've worked with Fort Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
And we still don't have that
Yeah.
recreation of the fort that Mr. John McKay years and years ago was working on that.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that might be a reality someday?
I'm working hard with that commission. I did it before I was commissioner myself, but I'm working hard with their commission, the Fort Hawkins Commission, to bring about that, because there again, I think it's something that could really benefit the Fort Hill neighborhood. If we do it the right way by bringing in tourist dollars, we can even provide scholarships to some of the kids who are living in Fort Hill and have a larger and deeper footprint for the citizens of Fort Hill. So yeah, I'm working hard on that. Another thing is on Thursday, we're going to have the Global Atlanta out to Weston College. One of the speakers this year is from Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines was started in East Macon at the old downtown airport in 1925 as a crop dusting plane. A lot of people don't realize that Delta Airlines started in East Macon. So we're going to talk about that on Thursday night at Weston College at Pierce Chapel, and all these different things converge on East Macon, you know, and converge on Macon overall. And my goal is to try to put them all together and make sure the citizens are benefiting from it.
Do we have one of those historical signs out there saying that?
No, but we need to work on that. We definitely need to work on that, make sure that it's there, because that's an actual fact that's why Delta Airlines started.
Well, you know, Charles Lindbergh, everybody knows his story. He used to fly in and out of that
right.
all the time.
That's right. Yeah, Millerfield Road, which is in East Macon as well. The old Bowden Golf Course at one time was an airfield. You know, so yeah, Charles Lindbergh and various aviators of the day flew into there.
Macon's oldest histories are all on the east of the river.
It is. That's a good point.
The Indian mounds.
Yes, sir.
For lack of a better term. They're much more than that.
Yes.
But how's that coming?
Well, my colleague Seth Clark, I think, has been doing a good job as far as you know, making sure the mounds, he serves in that capacity with the mounds, making sure that it becomes a national park, and meeting with the Washington delegation. I'll be in D.C. next week, not talking about that, but I think they've been doing a good job with that. And my understanding, based on talking with Seth, is that it should be coming up for a final vote within the next coming months. So hopefully we'll have some good news. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that, and have some good news in there.
Well, dealing with the feds takes a long time.
Yes, sir, it does.
You got to be calm about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
you see it happening.
I hope that it happens. You know, you never say until something's actually done. You know, but I see it hopefully coming into fruition for the people of this area. It'd be a great thing for Macon and for East Macon also if it happens.
Recently, they you had to vote on this. Mayor Miller wants to get another 4-year term.
Right.
I think he's limited to
Yes.
8 years, where you guys can be up there for 12 years. And to a lot of people, I guess that's some of the compromises made when they were trying to blend the county and the city.
Sure.
Consolidation.
Yeah.
And it was a political thing then. Now, how do you look at that?
I think it's a political thing now. I just gave Seth some flowers and said he did a good job with the Native American, with the mounds, which he has been doing. I think he did a terrible job putting forward this legislation, or this measure, saying that you know, the mayor needs to get a 3rd term.
He presented it?
He presented it. Yes, it was his measure, and the measure passed Commission 6-3, with 3 of us voting no, myself, Commissioner Brunson, and Commissioner Bryant.
Was that an anti-Miller thing on your part?
No, not at all. It was an making sure that the current mayor and future mayors are limited to 2 terms. And I told the mayor that it had nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with the rotation of ideas for future mayors going forward. If that measure were to pass, it's now in the state's hands, but if that measure were to pass, you're looking at possibly 2 people serving as mayor for almost a quarter of a century. That opens the door for so many things, mainly not a rotation of ideas. So no, it was not against him, but it was for the citizens of Macon and making sure that Macon has, that idea going forward. And I will say this as well, and I told Seth this, and I told everybody that night we had to vote for it. If it's your contention that the equal balance of power should be between the mayor and the commissioners, bring the commissioners down to 2 terms and keep the mayor at 2 terms, if that's your contention, But if you don't do that, that may not be the reason why you're doing it in the first place.
You don't believe in entrenched politicians?
No, I don't. And that's for myself included. I think that it should always be a rotation of ideas, making sure that all the citizens' voices are heard, and that rotation is done smoothly and equally across the board.
Well, looking down the road, what do you see as the future of the city with the mayor's ideas, your ideas, and everybody else's ideas?
I gave some interviews yesterday with multiple TV stations talking about the Global Atlanta event coming up, and I want to see Macon, and I'm going to work my hardest to make sure that Macon becomes a world-class city for all of our citizens. We are just 2 hours from the Port of Savannah, one of the busiest ports in the entire nation, in the world for that matter, and we're just an hour away from the busiest airport. You can be anywhere in the world within a matter of a couple of hours. We are centrally located within our state and centrally located within the southeastern region. So by that, economic development has to come to Macon, Georgia, and to Central Georgia for that matter. But Macon has to be the catalyst and the engine behind it, in my opinion, and making sure that we become a world-class city as we move forward further into the 21st century.
Well, you mentioned that Atlanta airport. We would like to have a hunk of that business down here. And
Well,
ours, what is the future of our airport?
I'm going to tell you, I gave an idea maybe about 5 years ago where I thought perhaps, I'm going to mention this to the Delta representative on Thursday night at Westland, where Delta could fly flights into Macon, basically have Macon, since the runway extension is taking place out there, have Macon as being a secondary airport to Hartsfield, Jackson, and then run a shuttle back up to Atlanta. In other words, fly the people into Macon, run a shuttle back up to Atlanta. But that way, Macon would be benefiting economically from the aviation aspect.
And we are expanding the runway out there to handle
Yes, sir.
all of this.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and as that's being expanded, we of course want to make sure more flights are coming in, more airlines are coming in, and I think Delta, with its origins here in Macon, as we mentioned 100 years ago, and with where they are now in close proximity to Macon, it would just be a no-brainer to bring a Delta flight into Macon and have a shuttle going back up to Atlanta to take people if they want to go back in that direction.
Speaking of shuttle and transportation, there's talk of bringing a railroad line, a passenger line through here. You hear any talk about that?
I haven't heard any talk lately about it. It's been talk around that for years.
Former Mayor Rickard's involved in that.
And I hope he still is staying on top of it. I've been hearing talk even before that, and when I was a little kid talking about my mom and us just always talk about the Nancy Hanks, back in their day. And so it would be great. Mayor Rickard was a big proponent and a big cheerleader, if you will, for that. And so I hope he stays on top of that, because it would be great to take some of the traffic off the interstate, and of course, have more people coming in and out of town, which will add to the economic part of Macon.
Well, like we say, politics is everything, and we got a new administration in there that's not as gung-ho about this railroad as the Bidens folks were.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we've got you work within the framework of what you have. I'm an old athlete, old baseball player. You win with what you've got, and if it means working within that framework for 4 years and do your best to see a change of administration in the next 4 years, then we're all for doing that.
Quickly, changes in Macon's black and white relationships since you were a kid.
Yeah, well, I think, I've always looked at it from the perspective that we're all in this together. You've been a family friend for years. You knew my Uncle Vernon. Vernon
Colbert.
Vernon Colbert.
City
yeah.
councilman.
City councilman.
The reason we have ice skating at the Coliseum, Vernon Colbert.
That's it. I told somebody the other night, we were down at the Macon Mayhem game. So my thing is, I think it would help us if we had race relation conversations here in Macon. But at the same time, I think we've come a long way, but we do have so much further to go. And that's the biggest thing I think we've got to realize, that number one is that we're all in this together, and we got to make sure that all ships are rising together. But we're not there yet, and we're going to get there, though.
What would get us there? I mean, what's the problem right now?
I think more communication. I think deeper communication, deeper lines of communication among all communities would get us there, and that's both the racial, religious, economic. There's an economic disparity here. Macon has a poverty rate of anywhere from 25 to 40%. That has nothing to do with color completely. It does in some aspects, but not completely, because you have poor white people, you have poor black people, you have poor Hispanics, you have poor all kinds of people here. So you've got to make sure that all those people are brought along and making sure they're part of the economic pie. So the key is communication. Whether you're talking about race, religion, and economics, have a better line of communication. That's what I intend on doing going forward. Whatever role I do in the future here in Macon, Georgia, is going to be based on the communication for the betterment and love of all people.
Well, Commissioner Stewart, we're out of time.
I enjoyed being here with you.
Thanks for coming by.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And thank you, folks, for participating in our Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm Ron Wildman over here at WMUB TV.